It's Tuesday. It must be Virtual LeaderCon. Welcome, everybody. Glad that you're here, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good afternoon, Aiden. Good morning to Buenos Aires. You probably get the distance prize. You might be further away than Ireland right now. Tell us where people are doing it in the chat. Tell us where you're from. Hope that you'll do that. Man, we are so excited to have you here for day 2. Good morning, Lisa.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Good.
We've got Windsor, Ontario. That'll make all of our in London, Ontario. I got like neighbors there ish in the big scheme of things. So let me introduce you all to Lisa Ritter McMahon. If you were with us yesterday, by the way, we have a poll down here. Some of you might have already taken it. Here's what I want you to do. Here's the question in the poll. Click on that little button down below. I was here yesterday, or this is my first time. So just go down there and tell us that. We'll get some doing it. We're doing it live as we go here. So if you were here yesterday, you didn't see Lisa. If it's your first time, doesn't matter. You didn't know Adrian yesterday either. Right now, it's like most people that are voting were here yesterday. Now, it might be biased, Lisa, because they're already used to the platform here, right? But if regardless, go down across the bottom. There's a button that says poll, and you can click that. But like 90% of you were here yesterday. And Lisa, yes, that Lisa was here yesterday. But I'm talking Lisa Eichenberry about Lisa Ritter McMahon, who's with me here. Lisa and I have been working together. How long now, Lisa?
I think about 7
years. I was going to say 7, but every time I say it, I'm wrong with whomever on the team it is. One of the team members who's actually downstairs, who you will see in the chat later in the day, Angie, she celebrates 12 years on this team on this coming Saturday. It'll be 12 years. But Lisa, you've been with us 7 years. You've played a bunch of different roles.
Yep.
And last year she was a co-host on Virtual LeaderCon, either 2 or 3 days. And this year, everybody, she's the one that needs the biggest praise of all, because she has been the leader of the Virtual LeaderCon planning team, and she's led the program team. So she and Laura are the 2 folks who are responsible for all of the great guests that we have here. So
yes.
So you should thank Lisa and Laura, but certainly Lisa, she's the boss. Yesterday morning, we have a huddle. Last year we had a huddle every morning. The first day last year, it was like, holy smokes. This was a brand new thing. And so we thought we ought to get together. And so we decided again, we'd have these huddles. And so yesterday morning, I sent her a note in Slack and said, where are we meeting? And she goes, I don't know. I said, it's your meeting. You're the queen of VLC. And then she told us what platform we were going to meet on. It probably just means, Lisa, we have too many platforms is what it probably means.
Maybe, or I just didn't realize. I kind of thought that I was done. Like once we hit start yesterday, I thought that my role was kind of finished.
No, we're not going to let you out of it quite that easy. So I think you're the initial chat monitor, but tell people like they're obviously already engaging. A lot of people have been here before, but what do people need to know just sort of in general as we get started? Okay.
So as you can see, the chat is on the side there. This is the place that you guys can interact with each other. Talk about, if you had an example or you've seen something that's been in your organization. So great place just to interact with each other. There is at the bottom next to the polls, there is something that says ask a question. This kind of goes more when we're in the sessions, because the chat can fill up pretty quickly, especially if it's a topic that everyone, it's a hot topic or there's tons of experience and people just commenting back and forth, that sometimes your questions can get lost in the chat. So when you use the ask a question, it's going to be for that session, and it can direct Kevin to specifically go there and better able to answer your questions. In addition to that, you can see the questions that have been asked. And if it's your question, you just click on next to it that says, yep, I want this one too. And then we'll see the number of questions.
Yeah, people keep voting on it. It's like you can make sure it gets to the top of the priority list, and we're doing the best we can to answer everybody's questions as we go. Let's just talk a little bit about the day today. Different than yesterday. We had someone give us some feedback yesterday that said, Kevin, you only had one female. Well, today it's more like 50-50. And as I said to that person yesterday, we were very aware of that. And we're certainly aware of thinking about that across the entire week. But how it shows up in an individual day, Lisa can tell you how the sausage is made. But basically, we gave our guests a calendar and let them pick the slots. And so how it turned out is largely how it turned out. Right, Lisa?
Yes. That's too many schedules to coordinate. I'm lucky to get my schedule coordinated correctly. And so when we invited guests to come and join us, they're either available or not. And then we sent them out the link and said, what day works for you?
And quite honestly, we wanted to get the best people we could for you, and we didn't want that to be an issue. And so say, well, let's go see if we can find someone's available at Tuesday at 12:45, right? That's not what we wanted to accomplish. So let me just quickly walk through the day. I'm kind of be looking to the side here at the schedule. We're going to talk about introversion. Today, we're going to talk about our values, and we're talking about how our values are related to making change happen. I think you're going to love that session with Stacey Henry. We're going to talk about facilitating remote creativity and innovation. Talk a lot about, we're actually quite a bit today about sort of the current world that we're in and some of the remote and hybrid stuff. And then after our second break, Bobby Herrera, who is actually one of my favorite people, is going to join us. We're going to talk about, he comes from the world of HR services and employment and all that sort of stuff. And he's going to actually help us unpack what we need to be doing as organizations and as leaders to deal with the turnover tsunami that we're in or that it's coming. And so you're going to love that time with him. David Burkus is going to join us, talk some more about leading our teams wherever they are. So we're going to have a lot of conversation about remote and hybrid there. Jeff Brown's going to come. We're going to talk about reading and learning as a leader, and you're going to love that. And then the session that a lot of our speakers have been fanboying about, that's my phrase, fanboying about, like, oh my gosh, I'm on the schedule with Gary Brackett. He won a Super Bowl championship as an Indianapolis Colt. So we're going to have a former NFL player, a Super Bowl champion, a captain of that team, an entrepreneur as well. And you're going to love hearing from Gary for a little bit. And then we're going to end, before we end the day, with our debrief. And I really hope you'll join us for that. Even if you can't be with us all day, you can come at the end of the day and sort of get the highlights of the day with Lisa and I and another member of our team that you'll get to meet then. And but we're going to have a session about being a better listener and how we can connect as a better listener. And you're going to love that session with Yamina as well. And it's a great day. It's a great day coming up, Lisa. And I know that you know a number of these speakers because we've had some of them on our podcast, and you as sort of the producer of the podcast. Any comments you just have about sort of the lineup for the day?
No, I think that, looking at the schedule and what we're talking about, if you only had one day this week, you're going to get a great cross section of things. And that's the other benefit of this, is that we touch on different topics every day that are applicable to almost everybody. And so, it's not really a track thing, which those are good and have their place, but something like this, where if you have to pop in and out, just a great cross section of things we're going to talk about and guests that will be with us.
And by the way, if you're joining us on one of the social channels, because right now we're simulcasting, we hope. I could look at my Slack and
we are on LinkedIn and we're on
YouTube. I saw it as well just now. Thank you, everybody. We're on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you're on LinkedIn or YouTube right now, you're only going to be with us for another 51 minutes. And then you're going to be gone. But if you go to virtualleadercon.com, the link will get put in here as well. You'll see it as well as on the channel you're on, where you can come and join us for all this other stuff that Lisa and I have been talking about, as well as the rest of the week, all for free. We hope you'll do that. For sure, there it is. virtualleadercon.com/register-now. You can do that and join us. Today, we're being sponsored by our Remarkable Masterclasses. You'll hear a lot about Remarkable Masterclasses throughout the day. You can go to virtualleadercon.com/masterclass, and you can learn all about all of the various masterclasses that we have created this year, designed to help you get targeted learning in a specific area, an important skill in a short time. And if you go to that link, welcome back, Cindy. If you go to that link and you put in this code, VLC 2021, you get 20% off of any of the master classes, or what we call a pro membership, which unlocks some master classes that you can't get unless you get pro. 20% discount, put in VLC 2021. There you go. The code is right there. We'll remind you that a couple times during the course of the day. There's a couple other ways, though, that if you're not going to be able to be here all day, Lisa is talking about how she thinks today is an extremely good representation of the week. And if you love today, you can get a day pass. Like you say, hey, I'm going to be able to hear it. I'll be here a little bit of time. I really wanted to hear Laurel. I really wanted to hear Bobby. Kevin says Bobby's one of the greatest guys on the planet. I want to hear that. Like, and you're going to miss it, you can get a day pass, which means you have access to all of today, like tomorrow or the next day, forever, as sort of to binge watch at your leisure. And you can go to remarkableleadercon.com/day pass to get the day pass, or you can get a premium membership and get all week, everything all week, including yesterday. If today's your first day, you can go back and get everything you missed yesterday, all of it, by going to virtualleadercon.com/upgrade. So there you go. You can get it all with the upgrade. You can get today with the day pass. But we're going to give away stuff, whether you paid or not. They're going to get prizes and stuff today. Give us some more about the day, Lisa. There's a bunch of other stuff you want them to know, fill them in and all that stuff.
Yeah. So Kevin likes to give things away. And
is that a bad thing? Like,
no, it's not a bad thing. Everybody here is probably clapping their hands, very excited about that. So during each of the sessions, we'll have something to give away, and he will randomly pick. Sometimes it's somebody who asks a question.
That's part of it, everybody.
And sometimes it's something that you said in a comment that particularly struck a chord at that time, or just really was like, aha, yes, and kind of brought the conversation all around. So be on the lookout for that. In addition, if you invite 5 people to register and they join us, you will get a swag bag.
A swag bag. You want a swag bag. You're going to get all kinds of stuff in the swag bag. You're going to get maybe some books, some t-shirts, some stuff. I promise that you'll get one of these mugs. I'll get this closer to my head so you can see. It says, I am a remarkable leader. That we're going to give you a bunch of stuff. It's swag. I'm not even going to promise, because I don't know what we're going to give in every one, but you get 5 other people. If you are finding this useful, 5 other people come join us and then tell us, we can send that to you. Now, the only way that we can send it to you is if you give us your mailing address. Where do people, they'll put it in the chat, where you need to go. If you win anything today, or if you get people for a swag bag, right? You can get stuff, including a mug, other stuff too.
And so that will always come up, but send your mailing address to info@virtualleadercon.com, and we'll have all that information and get going. And I just saw in the comment, someone was having struggles. What we have found is that Chrome is the best browser to run Crowdcast in. That's the platform we're on today, is Crowdcast.
So if you're having any technical trouble, try Chrome. That's the short answer to that. I've got to get my notes open because I got to get ready, because you're going to put me to work here in a minute.
I am.
So let's see. What else? Oh, you know what else? If you want to help spread the word about this event, you can go on any of your social channels, especially Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook. If you use the hashtag #VirtualLeaderCon and make sure you let people know how to register, not only might you get a swag bag, but we're going to give a prize at the end of the day. We're going to sort of randomly pick someone that shared this stuff on the various social medias, if you want to say it that way. Just make sure you put that hashtag in, or we won't know you did it. And make sure you put in virtualleadercon.com so people know where to go. And if you'll help us spread that word, we'll be grateful. And you might win something.
Yes, and it'll be great if you have a friend or colleague across the country and you get them to join us today. Then you'll be able to interact with them in the chat. So
exactly,
double bonus to hang out with some friends.
Why not? One of the things that, when we created this a year ago, one of the things that I was hoping we would create would be a community of learners right here. And the team will say that the end of the first day yesterday, I said, this is what I had in mind. This is what I envisioned, is that the people that would be here would engage with the content, would engage with each other. And that's what you all did last year. And that's what you all did yesterday. And it's just really, really fantastic. We have some questions here. I haven't looked at them yet. Do we need to? On YouTube. Oh, we got a question from YouTube. Hello, Richard from YouTube. How can I create a culture of accountability with the professional soccer team? Well, my name is not Ted Lasso, but we are going to talk about, and that is making at least a couple of members of my team happy when I mentioned Ted Lasso. we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna get to the content of my session here in just a couple minutes, so I'll do my very best to get that. How do I know if the people I invited come to the conference? Lisa, that's a really good question. You know what I would do? Just tell them to say hello to. Just tell them to let you know that they came. And you're on the honor system here, right? So invite 20 and assume 5 came. I don't know, but I mean, if they're coming the same time you are, they can certainly say hello to you in the chat. We're not. It's the honor system.
It's the honor system. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Apparently, I like to give things away. So there's technical stuff happening in the chat, and there hopefully we'll get everything taken care of. Every day, I'm going to do every day. I've said I'll do a morning inspiration. I've got it ready for today. And then Lisa will sort of do a couple other quick things, and we'll dive into culture of accountability. So let me share with you the morning inspiration. I don't know if you know this, but today is September the 21st. Well, you probably know that. Today is the fall equinox. The day and the night are the same length of time, right? It's Tuesday. It's the second day of Virtual LeaderCon. And today is World Gratitude Day. Somehow this showed up in my feed yesterday. I don't know how or why. And I had generally a plan for today's inspiration, and I called an audible. My team will be happy because I would say that word at least once a day. And I decided that, man, we ought to talk about gratitude. Yesterday in the morning inspiration, the idea of being grateful showed up, and we talked about being present. We talked about how when we're grateful, we are able to live in the moment. And yesterday I gave you an exercise if you were here. And I am not going to apologize for doing a similar exercise today, because first of all, not everyone was here. And second of all, we ought to be practicing our gratitude every day. Here's your exercise this morning. I want you to get ready to go in the chat, and I want you to think about one thing from your day yesterday that you're grateful for. One thing from your day yesterday that you're grateful for. And I want you to put it in the chat. And I'm going to give you a second. There's a little bit. Oh, a new niece. Oh, that might be the winner. Right? And not that not that somebody's is better than another. Here's the thing. I just want you to share one thing from yesterday. Aiden, your wife still loves you. She gave you coffee. And if you'll I'm going to give you a second to do that. I know there's a delay with the internet and everything of you getting what I'm saying. So I'm going to give you a second to do that. And Lisa, I'm going to have you pick a couple. We'll give away a couple of journals, okay?
Okay.
And so I just want to give you a second to do that. And if the word grateful doesn't quite catch it for you, you can use gratefulness. You can use thankfulness. You can use appreciation. You can pick whatever you want. Dan's knee feels better. That's awesome. And by the way, just because you happen to say that Virtual LeaderCon is what you're grateful for yesterday, we're happy for that. But flattery may not get you a prize. Just saying. Oh, Peggy found out that she's not the only one that thinks leaders should be kind. That's pretty awesome, right? Susan. Susan is one of the people here that I know personally, that I have seen in real life, in real time. Congratulations on number 4 a week ago. That is awesome. Before I go on with the rest of this inspiration, Lisa, give me a couple people. Pick a couple. You choose. We're gonna give the people. Lisa's about to pick a journal, so you can capture your gratitude into the future. Pick a couple for us.
So Amy Brown. Lisa, and I lost it. Let me find it. Sorry. No, I can't find Lisa Neiman. Or Nyman. Sorry.
Her husband brought her dinner. I think I saw
that,
right?
Yes.
Oh, Josh is grateful to be golfing, and he's grateful that his Buckeyes won, actually, even though it was touch and go. This week they won anyway. See, we can get to college football, Lisa, even if Adrian's not here, and I did it this time. So listen, that's a habit that we can build. Who knows? I may do it every day this week. I don't know, but here's where I want to take us. If today is World Gratitude Day, then let me dive back in and talk about why this is important, because first of all, what is it? I gave you some synonyms for it, but for us, what it is it's an affirmation of goodness. Whatever those things were that you saw scrolling through there, whatever it was that you typed or what you thought and didn't type, it's an affirmation of something good in your life, and it's an awareness that good things are around us. So it's an affirmation, and it's an awareness. It's an acknowledgement. That's what gratitude is. Here's what gratitude isn't. It's not naive positive thinking, right? It's not naive positive thinking. It's something real. It's something tangible. It's something that matters to you. It's personal. And it also isn't a zero-sum game, because so many people are saying, well, gratitude, that's fine. But look at all the problems in the world. Look at all the challenges that we're facing. Look at all the loneliness and isolation, and look at the COVID, and look at the world stage, and look at the economy. And all of that can be true, and we can still be grateful. In fact, I would say that when we're grateful, we're better equipped to deal with some of those other challenges that we might be facing. And if you were with us yesterday when Meredith Bell was with us, you'll hear the connection between what I just said and what she told us yesterday, because we didn't talk yesterday about gratefulness with Meredith, but we talked about appreciation, right? So when we are grateful, there are good things that happen for us. We feel better. Like the minute that I asked you to go think of something from yesterday and you did it, you immediately felt better. It's good for our health when we're grateful. It reduces our stress. It helps us be happier, and it helps us lead better. And again, back to what Meredith said yesterday, struggling with an individual. Well, if we reframe some things, think about what we appreciate about that person, it will help us lead better, but it will also help us have better relationships. When we are more grateful, when we have more gratitude in our lives, it will ripple into our relationships. It will help us come to things with a stronger mindset. It will help us relate with people in a better way. And I'm guessing that you would all agree with me. In fact, put it in the chat if you agree with this statement. Enthusiasm is contagious. If you agree with that, just put it in the chat. If you believe enthusiasm is contagious, yes, yes, yes. We're getting enthusiastic yeses. Here's the thing. So's the opposite. And which are we more likely to be enthusiastic if we're grateful? 100%. Happy Gratitude Day. Well, so we get better relationship. Our life is better for us. Our day is better for us. We have better relationships in our lives and on our teams. Our teams do better. We lead better. Our organization will do better. The world is better. So props today. So it's like having a pebble. And you toss the pebble into the pond. And you know what happens when you toss a pebble into the pond? You get ripples, right? And so our gratitude shared is like tossing the pebble into the pond, and we get ripples. But why do we have to settle for a pebble? We could make it more like a bigger rock. If we are more grateful, we make a bigger positive difference. We make bigger ripples. But I'm going to challenge us all today, not just to make ripples. I want us to put ripples into the pond. But I want us today to throw a rock into the water. Because if it's World Gratitude Day, what better day than today than to change it all? To change it all. To change for ourselves, to change it for those around us, to change the world. And so my inspiration, my urging to you is to celebrate World Gratitude Day today and every day. And I hope that your time today here, whether it's a short time or all day, will help you do that well. So there is your morning inspiration for today, everybody. So Lisa, I think you're going to say a little bit about me now that they've all been hearing me talk, because it's time for me to do what we promised, right? So exactly. I'll let you do that while I get my slides ready.
And I just want to add something to what Kevin was saying about the gratitude is I know for me, and then reading everybody else's, when you had that thought, whether you typed it or not, you smiled. It was just, I mean, you couldn't help but smile. New nieces, grandbabies, dinner, just having a good conversation. You just kind of smiled. So,
yeah, the minute that we're grateful, the minute that we acknowledge, notice, state it, it changes our being. And I said it yesterday, right? That when we're in a mode of gratefulness, we are not in a mode of regret or worry. We can't be both those things at once. So it shifts our focus, but it changes our attitude. That's exactly right, Lisa.
Exactly. So now what you all came for, I'm going to introduce Kevin. For those of you who weren't here yesterday, Kevin is the Chief Potential Officer here at the Kevin Eikenberry Group since 1993, and he is a leadership and remote work thought leader. And he looks to find the potentials in leaders and teams. He's been named by Inc.com 2 times as a top 100 leadership management experts. He's worked with Fortune 500 companies, small firms, universities, governments, on and on. And he is the author or co-author of 20-something books, including Remarkable Leadership, From Bud to Boss, and more recently with Wayne Termel, The Long Distance Leader and The Long Distance Teammate, which are applicable to the times we are in. So I'm going to set myself off stage and let Kevin take over. Have fun, Kevin.
Thanks, Lisa. We'll see you this afternoon. She did that. And man, I'm so glad to be with you all. I am so grateful for all of you to be here today. I'm certainly grateful for our team. And I want to share a few ideas with you about creating a culture of accountability. Hope you're ready. And by the way, we're doing this session together, whether you know it yet or not. I'll explain that in a second. So titles matter to me. Words matter to me. And so this title, Creating a Culture of Accountability, number one is there is such a thing as a culture of accountability, and it can be created, right? And if you have heard me, you may have heard me say this before, that we believe that we should be focusing on mindset, skill set, habit set, that this culture of accountability is a mindset, skill set, habit set issue. Understanding what accountability is, mindset, knowing how to implement it, skill set, and doing it every day is what creates it as a culture in an organization. And getting this right matters a lot. And if we don't get it right, we have implications that maybe we don't even realize, and we'll get to some of that in a bit. So accountability is a popular concept. It gets talked about a lot. It got talked about yesterday here in Virtual Leader Con. It's in the popular press. It's in the business press. I believe it's a misunderstood concept. And I know for sure that there are lots of feelings that are attached to it, without question. I'll get to that in a little bit in a second. So I believe that accountability is valuable for the organization. And that's one of the reasons it's in the business press. We want people to be accountable. Leaders say it to me all the time. I just wish my team was more accountable, because when we have greater accountability, we get better results. Drop the mic. Hey, if we can figure out a way to get better results, we ought to have that. We ought to do that. Aiden is one step ahead of me. Hang on to that thought, Aiden, there in the chat. Accountability is also valuable for us as individuals. No oops needed. Because when we feel accountable and when we act in a manner that is accountable, our work is more meaningful. And I don't know that there's a person walking this planet that does work, that's sort of not retired or pre-working age, that doesn't want to do meaningful work. And not everyone feels like they have that. And there's been a lot of conversation. We'll even talk about this some today, about people in the great reshuffle, the turnover tsunami, that people are leaving because they don't have meaningful work. I think this is one of the big keys to creating meaningful work for ourselves, choices that we can make to be more accountable. And so that's why this is important. It's why it's in the popular press, and it's why we're talking about it today. So let me give you my definition of accountability. Accountability is the willingness and ability. Notice that, mindset and skill set. The willingness and ability to take responsibility, not only for what is in your control, that part's we all would probably agree with, but to recognize how you can influence situations and outcomes around you. Willingness and ability to take responsibility. that's what accountability is from my perspective, for us as individuals to think about it. And all accountability in an organization starts with individual or personal accountability. Now, I said earlier that you're going to help co-create this session with me, right? And so I want to create that culture right now. I want a culture of accountability in this session, which means that you can influence this session. You can't control it like I have control of the slides, all right? But you can influence it by commenting, by asking, by sharing. And so I want, while I have a few more slides to share, I really want you all to let me know what you need to know. I want you to share your comments and questions, as Aiden is already doing. And I want you to say, Kevin, I'm not sure I agree or understand. So this session is our session, which is a microcosm of what it means to create a culture of accountability. So hopefully what I'm going to do is try to practice what I'm trying to preach and help us all see that that's possible, even when we don't know each other and even when we're virtual and all those things. So let me tell you some facts. If we're going to get to this misconception, misunderstanding about accountability, some facts about accountability from my perspective. Number one is it is personal. It is a mindset. It is a choice. It is a habit. We make the choice to say, I'm accountable or I'm not. Am I willing or not? And the choice that we make when we make it benefits everyone around us. Whether we're at a party, whether we're at work, whether we're on a project in our community, doesn't matter what it is. You can't make, Kristen says it. Hello, Kristen. You can't make someone else accountable. It's their choice. Now, there's a lot of things as leaders that we can do to improve the chances that people will make that choice. But this belongs to us individually. We can't do it to someone. We can't make them. Yesterday, this came up and someone says, well, I don't know how to, about holding people accountable. And there's a place, we'll get to that in a second. But I want you to think about how can I help people choose to be accountable? Or even if they've chosen, how do I help them have the ability? How can I help people be accountable? I can tell you right now, you may have people on your team that have never experienced a workplace where they were encouraged to, even expected to be accountable. Right? They were living in a world of complying and trying to get a paycheck and moving on. And so it may take us a while to help people get there, but it's certainly possible. Right? The willingness and ability to take responsibility. So people are writing out. There you go. Thank you. Kate is amazing. How can you have all of that perfectly unless you're backing up somehow and looking at my slides? Here's a question for you all. I need this audience You're taking good notes, Kate. Audience participation time. What do you think when you hear that word accountability? When you hear the word accountability, what crosses your mind? Just tell me all in the chat. No wrong answers here. You hear that word, what goes through your head? Josh says responsibility and ownership. Cringing. My signature is on it. Responsibility and blame. And Aiden said blame before. Yep. Accountable for actions. Ownership. Responsibility. Being responsible. I can rely on you. Responsibility. Man, I love those words. See, let me tell you something. This is a special group of people that are here. You've self-selected to be here, right? Let me tell you, if we went out and when I was a kid, they used to do man on the street interviews on our radio station in my small hometown. And I guess Jay Leno used to do this, right? Do man on the street. And every once in a while, some TV station will do this. They'll go out and man on the street and ask people questions. And don't drop the ball. Good morning, Ben. So here's the thing. This group of people is saying things like own it, responsible, ownership, don't drop the ball. If we go out man on the street and ask this question, we're going to get a whole lot more of accountability means blame. People only say that to me when I screwed up. And it's important for us to hear that. Invested, another really good word, Kevin, and really good name too, by the way. It's important for you all to hear that because from LinkedIn, I own the outcome, reliable and responsible, following through on what you say you'll do. I love that. Thank you. It's important that you hear this That this might seem obvious to you. There's a reason that you're in a leadership role. Chances are someone saw you as being accountable. You chose to be accountable. That's why you got promoted. And that's certainly why you chose to be here. Because you care about getting better at what you do. Like this group that's choosing to be here has self-selected to be in this situation, right? This is not the general public. This might not reflect what's in that chat, might not reflect what's going on in the rest of the world. And that's important for us to hear, because for many people, when they hear the word accountability, it's like, uh-oh, it's like the longest 4-letter word. Like when the leader says, I need you to be accountable, they're pointing their finger and it's like, oh, where did I screw up? And listen, we may say that even if we don't mean it to come out that way, that might be what they hear. So I love all of your answers. I really, really do. And oh my gosh, my team has created the gratitude list from the morning and put it on the resources page. And my team is awesome. They're just awesome. Dan says, when I was a teenager many years ago, I was a cook at KFC. The manager told me not to put out the product that I would not put my name on. I never forgot that statement. You know, Dan, that reminds me I struggled with this concept of accountability as a young employee in corporate America, because there would be all these conversations about we need people to be accountable. Like, that's just what it means to go to work. But you see, where I grew up, Dan, was I grew up working on a farm on a family farm where everything that was done mattered. And it was all seen. So I guess that word transparent was there. It could be seen what you did or didn't do, and what you did mattered or didn't matter. And I had tremendous amount of really responsibility at a very young age for things that had real implications to our profitability, our livelihood. So to me, it was automatically work equaled ownership. And so this has always sort of been second nature to me. It took me a long time as a professional to figure out that just because that's how I saw it, I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. I'm saying that actually got in my way for a while because I didn't realize that not everyone saw it that way. Right. So there are questions in the question box. I'm going to have to move my cursor to get there. Let's see. What's the question? So Richard on YouTube, hopefully we're starting to get to where you talked, what you asked about. Peggy says, how do you get people who are not a part of your team but that you have to work with to understand accountability? Hang on, Peggy. We're not there yet. And now people are putting in about their first jobs. If you're not proud of it, don't serve it. And I love that. It looks like KFC and the Burger King. You guys had the same boss. I love that. If you're not going to eat it, don't serve it, right? And I love that. And again, that was sort of a part of my growing up. And so it was obvious to me, and certainly to some of you, it's the same. It's not necessarily that way for everybody. And that doesn't necessarily mean other people are wrong. It just means they don't have that same experience or perspective. And so part of our job is to help them make a different choice, help them see the different choices even possible. So how do we help people see it differently? Well, you guys are way ahead of me, because stop using the word accountability and start using the word ownership. How do you feel when you have ownership? How do you feel when you are empowered? Because when we're empowered, we are choosing to be accountable, right? So you can ask anyone that, and anyone can say, man, when I feel ownership, it changes how I do it, right? If I'm proud of it, I'll serve it, right? So if you know that word accountability might be a barrier, then you don't have to use that word. Talk about ownership. Talk about empowerment, right? For sure. Okay. And the next question here is, how do you feel when your work matters? Well, this is almost a rhetorical question, isn't it? It's almost a rhetorical question. How do you feel when your work matters? Well, when your work matters, you care more about it. You're willing to put in the discretionary effort, shows that you care. It gets at this other big word of the year in corporate speak, and that's engagement. When people are accountable, they're far more likely to be engaged. Chuck says he feels valued. Yeah, I feel like we got a few people with technical challenges. I know the team's helping you with that. We apologize for that. And the good news about this particular session is it's all going to be available on the social media channels afterwards. If you're missing it, we apologize for that. Here's the real question. How do you feel when you have, when you feel ownership? How do you feel when you are empowered? How do you feel when your work matters? And you would say good things about all that, right? Guess what? Those feelings change your behavior. And so do the opposite. Like if you're feeling disempowered, if you're feeling like what you're just a number, if you're feeling like you're just here to do a job and you don't have any ownership at all, then you will be demotivated. But when you feel these things, as Aiden says, you will be feel motivated and engaged. And no one's making you do that because it's a choice that you make. It's almost like Lisa said earlier, that when you are grateful, you can't help but smile. When you feel ownership, when you feel accountability, when you feel empowerment, when you feel that your work makes a difference, you can't help but be accountable. It comes with a package, right? So this is what it is and what it really means and why it's valuable to all of us. So now I want to get at, you're thinking about your teams and what I'm sharing with you on this page, I'm sharing for the very first time. So I hope it's good. And I hope that it's helpful. I'm pretty excited to share it with you. So the question is, if you have a culture with some amount of accountability. So if we want to create a culture of accountability, what we really want to create is high accountability. So let's talk about what it looks like when we have high accountability in our culture and when we have low accountability. Just give you some markers so you can use this to say, here's what I've got or here's what I don't have. Christian says, when we are appreciated, we'll reach even higher levels of performance, innovation, creativity, and a bunch of other stuff that we're going to talk about here today with our guests, right? When we have a high accountability culture, we have more commitment. But we also have, when we have a low accountability culture, we have more compliance. Some of you heard me say, as a leader, are you aiming for compliance or are you aiming for commitment? I believe you want commitment. And if you have more commitment, chances are you have a higher accountability culture. If you feel like there's an awful lot of compliance going on in your organization, yes, boss, yes, ma'am, whatever you say. Now, all of us will say that once in a while. Sometimes we'll say it in jest. But if we hear that a lot and compliance seems to be the order of the day, then we probably have a low accountability culture. If you have proactive folks, people willing to take action, to try new things, if the organization and the folks in it are proactive, you probably have a high accountability culture. But if there are people waiting around, sitting on their hands, waiting to be told, wondering, gossiping, perhaps. But if there's more waiting and less proactivity, right? Yeah, Stacy says, of course, a significant lack of compliance can also be a problem. But here's the thing. If we've got clear expectations, Stacy, and people are committed, you don't have to worry about compliance. Like, we need people to comply, but we don't want them to only comply. We want them to go way above that line, right? And that's what we're saying. Yeah, yes, and certainly in some of our work, we need people to follow the accounting procedures so we don't get audited or so we don't get thrown in jail or something like that. Like, that's certainly true. But I also don't want us to end up with compliance as the bar, right? It's the minimum standard. Exactly, right? So what about micromanagement? If I, as a leader, well, let's just talk about micromanagement for a second, shall we? I have never, ever had a leader. I've asked thousands of people to tell me what are the characteristics of great leaders. I've done it in a variety of ways. I have never, ever had, great leaders are micromanagers. Never have I heard someone say a great leader is a micromanager. And yet all of us have experienced micromanagement and micromanagers. And whether we like to hear this or not, we've all probably been micromanagers, whether we intended to or not. Because here's the thing. The definition of micromanagement is determined by the other person. If I've got two people, let's say that Dan, who is still having trouble. Dan, with the technology. If let's say that Dan and Kristen both work for me and I treat them exactly the same way, I coach them exactly the same way, everything for them is exactly the same. Dan might say, Kevin's an awesome leader, and Kristen might say, Kevin is a darn micromanager. Why? Because of their needs, because of their style, because of their experience and proficiency and competence in the role. And I might say, well, I'm doing it exactly the same, but that's really determined by the other person. Here's the thing, though, in terms of our role in this as a leader, if we know we have accountable, responsible, empowered people taking ownership, we're far less likely to micromanage. But if we don't have those things, or if we're hovering over them, sort of, you've heard of the helicopter parent. If you're the helicopter boss, you either already have low accountability and that's why you feel like you have to hover, or because you hover, because you micromanage, people aren't willing to take accountability. That's super important for us to think about. So how much micromanagement is around in your organization? Is that a cause of the low accountability, or is it a symptom of? It might be either one. It might be both. When it showed up in the chat earlier, when people aren't accountable, there's blame. When people are accountable, they're saying, I'm responsible for my stuff. I'm responsible for my piece of this. I'm not blaming somebody else. When I was a kid, my dad said, Kevin, remember always that when you point your finger at someone, there are 3 fingers pointing back at you. So I said, Dad, I'll just point like this. What my dad was trying to tell me was, Kevin, there's always part of it that belongs to you. And when we are highly accountable as an organization, as a team, as an individual, we are blaming less. But if we're low in accountability, there's a lot more finger pointing going on. Now, I'm not saying it's human nature to say it wasn't me. I know we all do it, but some people are there most of the time. It's worth us thinking about. The next pair that I have for you here is when we have a high accountability culture, we have more implementation. And if we have a low accountability culture, we have, it says less second guessing. It should say more second guessing, right? Pointing, second guessing, wondering, waiting, as opposed to implementing, getting after it, getting started. So please, everybody, in your mind, change that to more second guessing in the second line. Make sure I remember, team, that we'll change that in the slides. And by the way, if you're wondering, the slides are available to you. If you're here at Virtual LeaderCon, you can go to the resources tab. You can get those, and we'll get that fixed sometime today. So if there's more positive energy, we were saying that earlier, right? We talked about that earlier in the area of gratitude or gratefulness, that we'd have positive energy. But we also said that when we feel accountable, when we feel like an owner, when we feel our work matters, then chances are the energy level is higher, the attitude is higher, and there's less cynicism. How much cynicism do you have in your organization? It's not only because of low accountability, but that might be one of the reasons. One more. A lot of you are worried about that one, wondering about that one. The great reshuffle, the great resignation, the turnover tsunami, call it whatever you want to call it. You've got an organization where people feel accountable, they feel valued, they feel like what they do matters, they feel like they have a say, they feel like they are accountable for their work. They are far less likely to leave. So again, other than one mistake on the slide, I created this for today's session, and I hope it's helpful. And what is the statement behind Kevin's head? So is my head in the way now? I don't know. If it's the last one, it's more retention. Lisa, more retention. I don't think in this case moving my head was going to help. Sorry about that, everybody. Use this as a way to think about where are we. Use this as a way to think about where do we want to go next? What do we need to do next? That'd be my question. That'd be my urging to you in regards to this. We've got a question in here. Let me go grab it. And here it is. How do you get people who, so hopefully, Peggy, you're getting some thoughts about that one. And I think that maybe, let's see. How do you balance not micromanaging with needing to understand how the team works so you can manage them in the process effectively? Great question. It starts with expectations. When we make the expectations clear, then it's far easier for everyone to know where we're coming from, right? So if you're needing to get to know what's going on with your group because you're the new leader of the team, that's perfectly fair. So help the team understand why it is, what your intention is behind the questions that you're asking. And then as you learn that, make sure that you change your habit and move out of that mode, right? Just be clear about your intention, be clear about your expectations of it. I'll give you a simple example that we've been using for a long time in working with remote teams and remote leaders, because oftentimes people who are working remote from their boss feel like they're being micromanaged. They feel like they're being hovered over. They feel like the boss is checking up on them. And one of the ways that we can change that as a leader is to say, hey, what I want to do is for us to have a meeting every week or whatever it is, a one-on-one, whatever. And so if I know, because Kate's my boss, that she and I are going to have this meeting once a week, I suddenly realize, even if I wish it was less frequently, at least I know that's what's going to happen. And so it's less likely that I think she's checking up with me and more likely that I understand that she's checking in with me because we've set a clear cadence around that communication, if that makes sense. Right. And as Kate says, if there's a performance issue, it's clear in their metrics. And by the way, that can only be true if we have super clear expectations. Right. So, and we talked a little bit about expectations yesterday. I'm sure it will show up again. If you've got a question about that, you can ask it. And you guys are taking me at my word. The new question is there really less cynicism and low? Two lesses that should be more. Thank you. More positive energy and high accountability, more cynicism and low accountability. Two mistakes from Kevin. I take full responsibility. No one did these slides but Kevin. And so, yes, for sure, right? So under low accountability, it should say more second guessing and more cynicism. Thank you so much, Debbie, for holding me accountable, right? So hopefully this list helps you think about, gives you a way to say, how are we doing here? What might we need to do different here? Where do we need to go from here? The question is, which of those two things do you want? I think I know the answer. Because we could add one more bullet under each. High accountability cultures get better results than low accountability ones, right? So I think I know which one you want. And so I'm looking at the clock. I've got a couple more things I want to share with you to help frame this up and to really help answer a couple of the other questions that people have asked. And the question is control or influence. Remember back in my definition, I said accountable for what we control, but also accountable for what we can influence, willing to take responsibility for. So the question is, what's in our control? What can we only influence, and what's outside of both? So Lisa loves the last slide. It'd be better if the words were all right on it, though, Lisa, which we will fix. Question, you all tell me in the chat. I want to know what, as a human being, as an adult human being, what's in your control? What's in your control? How we react, my attitude, myself, Aiden says, my reaction, okay, only me, only myself, what I do, what I say, what I do, and what I reflect on. My emotions, what I do, say, and think. Here's my answer to this. And you all got, I think, pretty much all of them. Here's my take on this. What's in our control as an adult human being of sound mind and body is what we do, say, think, feel, and choose. That's what's in our control. What we do, say, think, feel, and choose. How I show up, That came out yesterday. A lot of things that you're saying now are the choices that we make, the reactions that we do, our behaviors, what we do, say, think, feel, choose. Well, what can we influence? Lots of other things, but notice what's not inside of control. Other people is not inside of control, but other people, other situations. Can we influence others? Sure we can. Do we have control over others? Of course we don't. Right? So there are some really important things that we can control. There's a whole lot of stuff that we can influence, and there's some stuff that's in neither space. Let me show you a picture. I have a map here for you. And there's that control circle, right? This, what we do, say, think, feel, choose. There's the control circle. The bigger circle are the things that we can influence, right? Other people, situations, lots of stuff there. But then there's some stuff outside of both circles, right? What's outside of both circles? Weather, right? Time is going to pass. I need to finish this in the next 4 minutes, and the clock is going to go. It doesn't matter 4 minutes are going to pass. I have control over what I say in these 4 minutes, but the 4 minutes are going to pass. It doesn't matter. You have influence on how you choose to spend this day. The day's going to pass regardless. You don't have control of that outside of both circles. The map says that there are lots of things we can influence, and everything inside of both circles we can choose to be accountable for. The things outside of both circles, we can't be accountable for the weather or gravity. So the question becomes, where do we draw that big circle? And to recognize that we need to have the willingness and ability to be responsible for not only the things that we can control, what we do, say, think, feel, and choose, but also those that we can influence. And guess what? This is a map, because you put a dot on this map and it changes everything. So let's think about people. You got some people that you have great relationships with, high trust with, that you know well, and you have potentially a lot of influence with them. You would put the dot closer to the center. You have other people that you barely know at all, and that influence dot would be way closer to the outside circle. There are so many things that we're talking about all day today that can help you move your dot closer to the center. Not going to go inside of the control circle, but you can have more influence. You can have greater chance to make a bigger difference. So what are the implications? We do feel accountable for the things we can control, but we can choose to be accountable for the things that we influence. And the size of that circle makes all the difference. And if we think we can't, and we start to shrink that, it changes everything. Are there any questions I haven't answered? We have about 1 minute. Let's see. I think I answered them all. I think I answered them all. Listen, this is important. We're going to have an organization, regardless of what our culture around accountability is. Question is, what do we want to create? What are we trying to create? And what do we want to build? And how do we want to work every day? And it really all starts with us, doesn't it? So here's what to do next. Start with yourself. Ask accountable questions. Ask questions of yourself and others that say this. What could I do that might change it? Our friend Nate Regier, who joined us yesterday, says that we are 100% responsible for what we do, say, and think, do, think, and feel. He's right in line with what I just said to you. So what could I do that might change it? What could I do differently next time that might change it? What could we do that might change it? Not blaming the past, looking to the next time. We can help people extend their circle and recognize that they have more influence than they realize. And later this week, we're going to have on a great guest who's going to talk about that very point, very pointedly. And I hope you'll join us when Vanessa Bonds joins us for that. And the other thing that you can do is you can take our masterclass called Creating a Culture of Accountability, where I talk about a couple of things we talk about here, but go much deeper and get much more specific to help you. So if you want to have interest in that masterclass, learning more about that, getting a little sample of it even, the link is all there. You can go to virtualleadercon.com/accountability. Use that code and you get 20% off. So our time for this session is up. I'm hoping you're all going to join us in the next session. If you will scroll down, you will see the button to the next session. And I'm going to end this broadcast, and I'm going to go there and start that one. So you'll beat me. I'll be there in a second. I'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.